Namaskar, Ashok. Well, I'm so happy and thrilled to have the presence of someone who Jeffrey Armstrong name was not strong enough to combine all that he is offering to the world. So the name Kavindra Rishi and Kavi, when they go together, and I have the pleasure of welcoming someone who is author, teacher, and whatnot. We'll learn more about him in his presence. Kavindra Rishiji, welcome.
Thank you very much, Ashok. Namaste, pranams. Good to see you and a pleasure to be on the show.
So we will be talking about the book and there are several books best selling, but this one, the Bhagavad Gita, comes alive. So Bhagavad Gita comes alive. The title tells me that there is something more than what we traditionally are used to looking at Bhagavad Gita. Probably you are bringing a different take. Let's jump right there. Why comes alive?
It's a great starting point because during the time the British colonized India, everything to do with Sanskrit was put to sleep. There was a British named Macaulay, and I call it Macaulayization because he made Sanskrit illegal to teach and he taught only English. So that happened during colonization. And during that time, then the English words that were favorable to the Christian religion and to the politic of the West were used in, to represent the knowledge of the Veda. But in fact, that's incorrect. So to this day, there's been no translation of a Vedic text that's come from the Sanskrit into English that has the correct English. They all use colonizing Christian English, heaven, hell, sin, God, Lord. None of those words are supposed to be there. They're all incorrect translations of the Bhagavad Gita or any other Vedic text. And
So,
that's the work I'm doing.
what you are saying, I can resonate with that. But this looks like such a Herculean task, even to think of considering that you are going to run or work or flow against the current, because this has become such a norm. Lord becoming interchangeable, then dharma becoming interchangeable with religion, and several terms like that. So we come back to this reference, but I just want our viewers to learn a little bit more about you. So you are an internationally known speaker on Vedic, Hindu Vedic Sanatan Dharma, and Vedic knowledge is your focus. So people consider you as authority, and some people may have doubt that there could be any authority on Vedic knowledge because it is so vast. But then continuing with the recent recognition that government of India was intelligent enough to confer on you, and that is ICCR Indologist Award was given to you.
Yes,
Then
sir.
you have written Decolonized Bhagavad Gita Comes Alive that we are talking about. And indeed, Canadian Hindu Chambers of Commerce Lifetime Achievement Award has also been given to you. I also want to quickly mention, and I find it quite interesting, that you are not only an accomplished poet, you have best-selling books, you are on television, um, and as far as your initial education is concerned, that included psychology, history, and comparative religion and literature. So we come back to Bhagavad Gita, but before that, and this is also known as a celestial song, and this is poetry. And most of the Hindu scriptures are poetic, and there
Huh?
is certain meter. When you go to Sanskrit, then
You
so
mean like this? Yad yad acharati sheshtas tata devetaro janaha sayad pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate.
wow. So the question is related to how do you see poetry has some special relationship with the expression of knowledge in Indian tradition?
Well, I'll tell you a secret. I'll ask you something first. If you want to know how to use a particular word, what book do you go to?
Dictionary.
No. Your pronunciation's a little off. It's dictionary.
Ah, beautiful.
You go for Diksha. Now,
Ah,
if you're going to get Diksha, which Devi has to be favorable toward you?
Saraswati Mata.
So Vak. So that must give you a good vocabulary from your dictionary.
Beautiful. Mhm.
Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha.
Beautiful.
So this is
Uh,
the revolution, the renaissance that is sweeping the planet. During colonization, Sanskrit was thrown out. But now that the Vedic culture is all around the world, Sanskrit is throwing out the English that doesn't help telling the higher understanding that we're trying to share.
so this is a very relevant space. Some people say that when you are referring to truth and talking about a spiritual dimension, language is immaterial. Some people say that. How?
The
Yeah.
people who say that are, I'm sad to say, still illiterate. They can't say it unless they have words. So why would they not want the correct words? And so this is what Sanskrit is. It's Sanskritam. It's the most precise programming language on the planet. It was the source of Greek and Latin and the languages that preceded European civilization and English. And so it's the mother of all knowing on our planet. It's just that was hidden by the British because that's the exact opposite of what they wanted us to say. They were colonizing, taking over, so they wanted everyone to speak their way. So time is changing.
So what you are saying becomes more authentic if our viewers become aware, authentic, or they'll look at what you are saying with coming from someone with more authority of the subject is you have worked um, in executive capacity with a company which is known across the globe now, and that is Apple. So, talk to me about your relationship with Apple, and while you're in the thick of a place which is the happening company and a growing company, then what makes you take this diversion and go towards Vedic knowledge? So, two questions.
All right. Well, first of all, yes, I was there at the beginning of the technology explosion. So Apple Computer hired me to be their Middle Eastern representative. And I started doing that in 1976, 1977. And I worked for them for 10 years. But through this, I became aware of what technology was, what it was doing, and also its dangers. And so I spent almost 10 years uh, spreading technology around the world as my occupation. And then I spent the next 10 years as a comedian warning the world where technology could take us. I created a comedic character called Saint Silicon, who was the founder of the world's first computer religion, CHIP, the Church of Heuristic Information Processing, and the Hunt and Peck method of salvation, the world's first user-friendly religion where everything is gigo, garbage in, gospel out. I made fun of technology for 10 years as a full-time living.
Well, let's listen your take on the dangers that you just mentioned.
Well, the dangers of technology are that we lose our individuality and that the technology goes inside of us. I believe this is happening now. And then we become automatons because of that electricity. So it's a way of dominating not only the world, but the individual and erasing their importance as an individual. So if we're not careful, we will become automatons instead of humans. And this is one of the things on the table right now with technology. It's how invasive will it be, and what will human beings look like? Will they be implanted? Well, there's a joke I do when I go to the marketplace and they ask me to pay for my food. I move my hand across like it's a barcode. And they say, no, of course you. Oh, I say, oh, sorry, you do need the credit card, don't you? I haven't got the implant yet. So technology is a two-edged sword. It's very dangerous and it's shaping the world differently. But who's really shaping the world? And this is where the Vedic Vidya comes in. The value system, the worldview. Who has a worldview?
Let me interrupt you here, just because what you just said. E- People think that this is the natural way to grow and develop, and people, and that includes me. I mean, I'm not excluding myself. We think that comforts will come with some compromises, and we are willing to compromise. So when we are talking about technology, the advantage is that I'm talking to you through technology right now, and so there is plus side. Then the other side, with the social media becoming a part of our lives, we are willing to part with our privacy, and of course, be open and vulnerable to certain threats or virus, as well as hacking or whatever. But coming back to the balance between comforts and consciousness, when you
That's right.
look at that, and you rightly said about the value, etc., but to go and to appreciate what you are hinting at, you need certain evolved mind, because when you are in the circle of play of technology, and you are having fun and you are enjoying, you think that this is all. So shifting from there to what you are saying, uh, how challenging it is.
Indeed. And the only way to sort it out is to have a vocabulary, to have the correct Sanskrit words, because the whole point of the Vedic civilization is a hum brahmasmi. It's that it's not a humkara. I'm not matter. This body is not me. I'm not the color of my skin or my gender. I'm an Atma who is within a body, and therefore that worldview, that perspective, is what will destroy the world or heal the world. And that is what the Vedic Vidya is all about. It's letting this Aham Brahmasmi technology go out into the world. So the way I like to say this is, when the British went to India, they stole Lakshmi. They called them the crown jewel, right? India was the crown jewel in the British Empire. Ah, but wherever Lakshmi goes, Vishnu goes too. They didn't know that. And Vishnu is yoga. So yoga followed. And who did yoga come from? The gurus. And who picked it up? The Shaktis, the females of Western civilization who couldn't hardly vote, who couldn't own property, started practicing yoga. And now yoga is Vishnu's answer to reuniting Lakshmi with Vishnu. In other words, we have to have the right consciousness to properly run the planet. And that consciousness comes from the Veda.
So, again, the essence of Vedas and Upanishad essence in Bhagavad Gita, and let us go to the idea of the Bhagavad Gita comes alive. It is also have subtitle, that is a radical translation by Jeffrey Armstrong. Now, why radical term is used here?
Because if the other name for Lakshmi is Radha, and that's Krishna's Shakti. And Krishna is the Vishnu avatar that introduced us to the time period we're in right now at the beginning of Kali Yuga. So this is Kali Yuga, and in Kali Yuga, the world is transforming in unprecedented ways. But the Vedic culture was given the standard of living and consciousness that is necessary during that time. And that is what the Vedas are. So this is actually unfolding in such a way that now the programming languages and computers, this is what I learned in Silicon Valley, that knowledge came from India. It came from Sanskrit, mathematics, all of those things. So the Mahabharata and the Ramayana have references to astronomy that prove that it's at least 20,000 years old in the case of the Ramayana, and at least 8,000 in the case of the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata. So this is the culture that preceded all civilization on our planet. And that's what was buried by the British when they buried Sanskrit and, of course, the history of Bharat.
Okay, so now you are based in British Columbia, Canada. And so when you are talking about British, I was reminded of that, as the fact that India became independent right after you were born. That was in 1946. You were born in 47. So this was December 46. The gentleman comes and he wants India to be independent. Just so right after that, India becomes independent.
All
Now,
right.
the responsibility of the way Sanskrit was not given its due, etc., cannot be on Britishers alone. So, what India did with the glory of Sanskrit language after it became independent, we want to say something about that.
Yes. Let's talk about how this really happens. I'll tell you a funny story. I've never told this in a recorded version before, but my father, my last name is Armstrong. And when I was born and raised, yes,
Yeah.
Je- Armstrong, Jeffrey Armstrong. Now, Armstrong is a Scottish warrior clan, Kshatriyas. And I was born in an Armstrong family. My father was an Air Force captain stationed in Bharat during World War II.
Oh, wow.
He was in Mumbai. And so when I went into the ashram, he was quite surprised that his son was not a standard American, but was becoming a Hindu. This was a shock to him. But I called him up on the phone and I said, Dad, when you were in the military, weren't you stationed in Mumbai? He said, Yes. I said, Did you ever go to any temples or swim in any rivers? He said, Yeah, the Ganga or something like that. So he swam in the Ganga. I said, Then did you go to any temples? He said, Yes. I said, Did they offer you any food? He said, Yes. As a matter of fact, he's something prasad or something like that. I said, Yes. And did the priest say anything to you? Did the person in charge of the temple say something to you when you offered yourself to visit? And he said, Yes. He said, May you have a son devoted to Vishnu.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So my father picked me up by visiting Bharat during World War II, brought me back and deposited me in Detroit, Michigan. And the rest is history, as they say. No, the rest is itihasa.
So what you said tells us that there is definitely power in blessings, and of course, prasad makes all the difference. So whichever way it came, let me continue with your journey of love for Vedic Vidya and Kavindra. How you felt close to this name Kavindra Rishi, and if you want to say something about the poems that you write and any poem that you care to share.
Oh, wonderful. You actually want to hear a poem. That's so rare. Well, I'll do a poem in a moment, but the name Kavi Indra was given by my astrology, my Jyotish guru. When I was in the ashram, my name was given as Jamadagneya Das, but that's difficult for people to say, but that's one of my Sanskrit names. And then my Jyotishi said, well, actually, your correct name based on your chart is Kavi Indra Rishi because you're a Kavi, because you're a poet. So let me give you a quick example. You ready?
Yes.
I said, You heard of Adam. He discovered the atom as he tried to relieve a lady named Eve with a weakness for snakes, a couple bad breaks. So they cut down the trees, bought color TVs, polluted the skies, built a new paradise with a crane they were able and a wrinkle free label, hoping not to die, bought insurance from a guy with a crew cut and a grin who smelled of original sin and the accidental babies. Yes, is Vedic poetry rap.
I couldn't have imagined. This was so nice. I think someone should sing it also. Maybe there are some. It was a wonderful rap actually, and there was depth and a sort of a lighter side to it also, both together, which is very difficult, I think, thing to achieve, to have that overlap. So, what I am happy about this conversation is you rarely come across an individual who has so many dimensions to his personality, and many of them are so evolved. We'll go back to Bhagavad Gita's take for modern mind, and I have come across people who say, "I've read Bhagavad Gita, but I don't think they got anything out of it." So Bhagavad Gita is a difficult text that becomes an excuse for people to stay away from it. So talk to me about your initial love or understanding or grasp, or where you felt that this is mine.
Well, this is where our destiny and where karma comes in. Obviously, I was a practitioner of the Vedic Dharma in a previous life. So, if you are truly a yogic practitioner, then what is your wish? What do you say to Bhagavan? You don't say, here's what I want, and give him a list of things that you want to have. You say, I'm yours. Please use me in some seva that is beneficial to the world. So we come back in our next life, and that next life continues a process. That's what we see happening right now. That's where these hundreds of millions of female yogis came from all of a sudden on our planet, because all of the different yogis who were living in Bharat simply said to Bhagavan, I would love to continue doing seva. He said, no problem. I've got a renaissance coming, and you can travel the world and take birth as yoga practitioners. I got to speak when Narendra Modi was in New York recently celebrating World Yoga Day. So
Wow.
I met Narendra Modi when I first went to India because he was in charge of Gujarat at the time. And my wife and I went there and met him. I'll tell you a really funny story. We met Narendra Modi. He was the PM of Gujarat. And this was a
Yes.
very large gathering. It was the RSS Shabir. So this is my first time being a speaker for the RSS. And so we were at the gateway in Ahmedabad of this very large temple area. And there were at least 300 cameras out in the field because Narendra Modi was just coming in. So he walked forward, and we were standing at the gate, my wife and I, just watching. First experience for us. And he went through, and all the cameras turned from him to us. 300 newsmen out in the field with cameras, and they all went, shh. So the next day, the newspaper had a headline picture, two white people go to RSS Shabir, and on page 8, it talked about Narendra Modi. So we're part of a renaissance that Bhagavan has planned. I didn't plan it, but I asked, what could I do? But so do millions of people in their previous births, and they're coming back in this birth like yourself right now. Your intention in this is dharmic. And so this dharmic intention isn't a colonization, it's a decolonization. It's a truth telling that is now going around the world in the Sanskrit language.
So much to learn from the gentleman who I happen to be fortunate to be talking, Jeffrey Armstrong, Kavind Rishiji. Just few minutes that we have, and the term Renaissance, I heard a few times from you, and I also want your understanding of the connotation that you derive from the word Dharma, Sanatan Dharma, what it is.
Well, the heart of Dharma is the Ritam. The Ritam gives us the Ri, and the root of Dharma is Dri, which is to work cooperatively with the laws of nature, which is the Ritam. It gives us the English word rhythm. I got rhythm. You got rhythm if you're on the beat. If you're on the beat, you're working with the laws of Prakriti, and you're cooperative. If you are, that's called Dharma. So that's Dri. So cooperating with the laws of Dharma, of nature, of Mata Bhumi, of the planet, that is the Vedic culture. It's a Dharma culture. It's a mutual cooperation for all persons to try to work together, obeying the laws of Mata Bhumi. And what word came from Bhumi? Wait, let me think. Bhumi, Bhuma, humus, earth, human. Oh, I know. We're Bhumi beings, humans. That's the correct linguistics. We're Bhumi beings. So once we realize this, then we look at Bhumi and say, oh, Mata Bhumi, how may I serve you?
It is so refreshing to talk to you and to see how words work and reveal their essence to Kavindra Rishiji. It's a source of joy as well as it is uplifting. And as we move towards the concluding part for this particular session, in India, you have heard recently there are areas which we don't feel comfortable talking. When I say we, meaning generally Hindus avoid uh, these kind of references. Like somebody mentioned Sanatan Dharma destruction being his aim, and then equating Sanatan Dharma to caste or inequality, etc. And so that guy is born in India, but this is what he learnt about Sanatan Dharma. And you were born far away across the sea, and the way you could sort of become one with the essence, and the way you describe it is the beautiful way of realizing that this is the pathway that is going to bring world peace and harmony, because you are not referring to any particular group, etc. This is getting into the rhythm of the laws of the nature. So
Absolutely. You're very observant. So this means that all of the different people, for example, I know who the Sikhs really are. The Sikhs were like Arjun. Guru Govind Singh, he spoke Brajabasi. He spoke the language of Vrindavan. He knew about Bhagavan. He was a Kshatriya who was trying to protect the culture, and he did at that time in history. So the Sikhs who think that they're not in the service of the Sanatana Dharma culture have just forgotten a little bit of their history, but Guru Govind Singh was. So all of these are friends of ours. They're Kshatriyas. They were the protectors. At that time in history, the eldest child of every Hindu family became a Sikh as a protector of Bharat at that time. But the British colonization caused a lot of scar tissue and harm and hurt people, and that's natural. So right now we're trying to heal that because I wasn't in that politic. I can heal it by appreciating everyone. I have a degree in history and comparative religion. I've read the Quran, I've read the Bible, I've read all the literature, I've studied their history, and I respect them appropriately. But then I can talk to them about the ingredients in their teaching that are missing, that are present in the Sanskrit Vedic Vidya, without it being colonizing or an insulting conversation. This is the way the Veda is supposed to be presented when the student is ready.
beautiful. So I'm afraid we'll have to leave it at that. But I would once again express my gratefulness to you and the joy of having interacted with you on different themes, slightly not in depth. But then you can get more of him if you go to YouTube, write his name, and he's also teaching. We will talk about his role as a teacher some other time. But accept my pranams, Jeffrey Armstrong, Kavindra Rishiji, founder of.
And mine back to you. I'm sure that Saraswati loves you. That's why you got the job you have. And it's a pleasure to speak with you, Ashok.
Thank you.